there's a comment that came in earlier talking about midfielders to Manchester United. There is another story that's picking up some pace. Jude Bellingham, Man United reportedly confident. Liverpool seemingly now can't afford him. Real Madrid and Man City looking at him. Question is, who are the favourites and where is Jude Bellingham heading, in your opinion? Could Man United be in the race, or is it more likely to be Real Madrid or Manchester City?
Well, I've always said that the three clubs that were deemed to be putting in the most legwork were Liverpool, Manchester City, Real Madrid, with Liverpool and Real Madrid long-standing trying to lure Bellingham over on the player side, develop relationships with the family, and have a vision. And Real's problem has always been price, especially if they get sucked into a race, as is likely with the Premier League suitor. And the Real hope, as of last year, was that what they would do is get Bellingham to commit to them, and then he wouldn't sign any kind of new deal at Dortmund. And as a consequence, they were somehow hoping to get him for under £100 million, which feels highly, highly ambitious at this point. Now, whether Real go up in their valuation, and there's no release clause in the current contract, so Dortmund can ask for anything they like. And as a result, price is the big sticking point from Real's perspective, but they've always been reasonably bullish on the player side about thinking like they can get him over there. But he's never said yes. He's never told them that that's his club of preference. So they're there. Manchester City, and I think we spoke about this the last time I was on, were always the ones that were a little bit behind Liverpool and Real Madrid in the legwork, but the other two suitors said they're braced. They feel like Manchester City are going to be serious contenders. And I'd already told you when we spoke, I think in the transfer window, that Erling Haaland had said to Jude Bellingham, you should join. And Bellingham's going to be very dispassionate and score his next move on a variety of factors. There will be a gut feeling as well, but it will be a decision made with both head and heart, and not only financial. It's about the project, it's about the manager, it's about the city, and so on. So Manchester City, I think, will also stand a very realistic chance for Jude Bellingham, and Real Madrid have been pushing hard. With Liverpool, perhaps things have changed a little bit. And obviously, if they don't have Champions League football, their budget will be affected as well. But make no mistake, they're not out of this race at all. There has always been a drive at the Liverpool end to try and sign Jude Bellingham. And there's been different degrees of confidence over the course of the last 6 months or so. And as a result, we still cannot rule Liverpool out of the race for Jude Bellingham, even though the excellent David Ornstein said that the move is looking less likely now than a few months ago. And I think that's accurate to an extent, but things change. And as a result, Liverpool will be there. They're not walking away and looking at other targets. Still on the radar. But if they get blown out the water financially, if they don't have Champions League football, if their budget goes down as a result, then of course they become on the back foot. And then Manchester United are absolutely creeping into the conversation as well. And it was always felt like Manchester United under the Glazers, when Bellingham was first being spoken about in an open race last summer, wouldn't be able to go, financially speaking, into this race. But with new ownership now and a very possible group coming in that will want to spend, and Champions League football looking more likely now than it did after the start that Manchester United made to the season, they've kind of done the opposite of Liverpool. You know, Liverpool started with everyone saying automatic Champions League, the project's moving in the right direction, they were challenging for a quadruple, they'll be there. Manchester United started losing those back-to-back games with the Cristiano Ronaldo saga hovering over the beginning of the season. Was Erik ten Hag going to settle? Who on earth is going to own the football club? And now Manchester United have got a trophy. They're on course for Champions League football. There's stability. And with that stability, it allows you to plan and be a bit more ambitious. And that's why Manchester United are coming into the race now for Jude Bellingham. I still think Manchester City, Real Madrid, and I would still say Liverpool are the three that are there. But don't rule out Manchester United. It's just, again, a case of what do they want most of all? A traditional number 9. What do they have to spend to get that traditional number 9? 100+ million. Therefore, if you sign Bellingham for 100+ million, who else can you actually add without spending 350 million? And are they going to be able to do that And we have to wait and see on the new owners, on financial fair play, on whether they qualify for Champions League. So strategically, Bellingham is a name there, and the recruitment team are always working ahead of the window. But financially, we're going to have to wait and see whether they enter the race or they just like to enter the race. And then I think the other thing, just to add on all of this, is Dortmund. So it's not impossible that Dortmund try and hang on to Bellingham. Everyone's talking about a 2023 move. They could offer him a new deal. And that is the least likely of the scenarios outlined, but it's not impossible. And if they offer him a new deal, does that put a sky-high release clause, or is there still no release clause that allow them to have even more leverage in the deal? And then people will ask me, well, why would Bellingham sign a new deal? Players do so, like Christopher Nkunku at Leipzig, because there's some kind of agreement that they'll still be allowed to leave under the right circumstances. And then in the short term, the player can get a pay bump, and that allows them to leverage that against a new move. So Nkunku signed a new deal at Leipzig and immediately pre-agreed a new deal with Chelsea. So why would he do that? And the answer is because he gets better terms over between now and the end of the season, and he can leverage those better terms in order to get an even better deal with Chelsea. And then from the perspective of Leipzig, they're able to put a number in that new deal to ensure that they get the kind of value that they're looking for from the transfer. So it's sort of win-win-win, which is why it's not impossible that Bellingham would also sign a new deal. But I think of the scenarios outlined, it's still the least likely comparative to things just ticking along and then there being a big bidding war come summer.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think what you said about Liverpool is a real intriguing one, because, of course, I get the feeling what Liverpool are doing, and they're very good at what they do is they're very good at getting their stance out early, almost just make people think we won't pay that much money or we can't afford that deal. Therefore, if they miss out, we know exactly what their stance will be. It's ridiculous money in this climate where people can't afford to heat their houses, can't afford food. How dare we spend that much money on a football player? If they land him, then no one's going to care about any of that PR, and it's all going to be a case of, well done, Liverpool. I still think they're in it, but they're almost planting the seed now for why we failed if we do. Man United is interesting because Bellingham, I think some people misconceive Bellingham as some kind of, because of the way England use him in that double pivot, as some deep-lying midfield player. He isn't. For me, when he's at his best is when he's in those attacking areas of the football pitch. Man United have Bruno Fernandes, and to a degree, you've got Christian Eriksen, who should be more advanced. He's been playing deeper because of lack of midfielders. I think we need more of a Frankie de Jong-esque midfielder. It may not be him. Well, it could be him. I don't know what's going on at Barcelona at the minute. Gavi's seemingly available now because of everything that's been going on there. But yeah, it's going to be very intriguing to see what happens with Jude Bellingham, where he ends up. I don't think he'll go. I thought yesterday Real Madrid, and then I thought about it more and more. This kid's going to end up in the Premier League, in my opinion. I really do. I just think it'll be the Premier League. Man City are the team where I think he's going to end up as a long-term replacement for KDB. That's where I see it. KDB's still brilliant and firing on all cylinders, but once a player's in his 30s, you never quite know when the decline hits. When some players can fall off the edge of a cliff, some may continue it going. But City have been excellent in recent years of replacing their star players early. Yeah, the only time they didn't really do it was with Aguero. They had a year where they didn't have a replacement for him, but they still won the league because they had such a great squad around him. Now Haaland's in there. So, yeah, City front runners for me personally in terms of where I think he'll end up. But what a race that's going to be. And we did actually have a super chat